You spent countless hours in the garage with your dad. Now investing in that old car and working on it with your son reminds you of him. And his legacy lives on. Fund your passion with a low-interest home equity line of credit from Bank of Blue Valley.
Whoa, Ezzy, how are you doing?
What's going on, brother? Long time no see.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't had a happy hour in a while, and usually you and I close it down because we don't have any adult supervision like today. Aaron Fulk, the most famous LinkedIn personality in Kansas City, is a little under the weather with the seasons changing. How are you doing? Do you have any allergies?
You know, I used to have allergies, but you know, there's some herbs you can get from the Nature Zone stores around Kansas City, and those help. They help a lot, man. They'll knock them on out.
Yeah, the Advent Health is one of those organizations where they have holistic medicine is one of their fastest growing, specifically with women. And it's something that I just feel like we all need to check out. We don't know what we don't know. My wife has had allergies. I hope Aaron's doing better. I have Pedialyte, but I am at Big Cedar Lodge for a company event. And I'm on the patio because this is the best Wi-Fi. And when you're doing drinks with leaders, you got to have great Wi-Fi. But the question I have for you is a guy that's run tons of businesses as an entrepreneur, not to plug our sponsor, but how important is it to you with your banking partners to growing your businesses over the years?
Yeah, I think over the last year and a half to 2 years, you know, it's shown exactly how important bankers are, right? And having that relationship. You know, that banker is like an extension of the family, extension of the business. You know, when you need capital because something happens or you need to make a lot of hires to fulfill a project, you know, those bankers, they matter a lot. And having that relationship with your banker versus a big box, what I call a big box bank, you know, they can do a lot more for you versus, you know, just being handcuffed by corporate protocols from 8 states away.
That's right. You know, Matt Moylan, happy drinks with leaders, everyone. I need to try this holistic allergy method. Mine are terrible. Matt, thank you, Mike. Ezzy, good to see you, my friend. And Joel, one of our best guests. Good afternoon. Best wishes to Aaron to feel better. Joel, you're amazing. Please comment where you're watching from or just how you're feeling. Are allergies bothering you? When the seasons change, let us know if you're doing all right. And Bank of Blue Valley is always that community bank. But I just got an email from one of their senior bankers on a multifamily portfolio of one of the top 10 largest multifamilies. So the deals they're working on are not always just community banking, but they're 100 million plus. So huge thank you to Bank of Blue Valley. But enough about our key sponsor. Are you ready, Ezzy, to get to our panelists?
I am, but first of all, I need people to smash that like. Do we have likes?
Yeah, we do. So when it's streaming, it does. Yeah.
Yeah, react. You know, I need to see some reactions. You know, we have all this good content, all these charming faces here, and some amazing community and business leaders coming. We need to show them some love. Show them some love.
Aaron's so amazing. So Aaron's running the show behind the scenes because Ezzy and I aren't capable of doing it. And also, Aaron's brilliant, but it's so funny. She's picking up on what we're saying and incorporating it to the show. But let's see if she's on it in this next 30 seconds so she can eventually take a nap. But I'm going to start with our first guest here. Here's the music for all those Chiefs fans. Here we go. Starting off, number 1, Madison Ward. Number 2, coming in hot, Mr. Ted Place. Number 3, Mr. Stephen Anthony. And with the best camera angle in the business, Rick Burgess. Whitney, hello from downtown Kansas City, Missouri. Glad you could join us. Now, without any further ado, we always have ladies go first. Madison, who are you? What do you do? And how do you get to Kansas City today?
Okay, I am Madison Ward, and what do I do? I am the business development executive for Lillian James Creative. Fun job. And I actually have lived in Kansas City my entire life. I do live in Orlando, Florida now, so I'm not in Kansas City anymore. Sadly, very sad. Was there 2 weeks, but that's how I got to Kansas City. Always have lived there, grew up, went to Blue Valley West, was a Jayhawk, and that's my life. But now I do the business development side for Lillian James. And with that, so I either find new business, I go through our leads, we all work together, and then the creatives kind of take over that side after Aaron and I will meet with them and kind of figure out how we can grow your brand, grow your business, and whatever needs you might need as far as anything that comes from like podcast to videography to website to anything in between. We find the need for that, and then Aaron and I meet with you, and then our creatives take it over. And so it's been really fun. I've been with Lillian James almost 2 months, the 9th of next month. So I'm fairly new and loving all of it, loving learning, loving to be around everyone. The energy is amazing. Obviously, Aaron and Ezzy are great, and we kind of all just have a really great team that gets to work together in multiple different ways. So, yeah.
You know, we created we created a team of Spartans, and so we're extremely excited to have Madison join us as a fellow Spartan and a destroyer of worlds, if I can get it out. And she's just been a complete gladiator in every role that she's had. So we're excited to have her.
And Madison, what's one thing that is unique that you didn't think people would be so interested in from a business side as you're out and about in the community? What's something you didn't anticipate, but people are really wanting to learn more about or do more of for their business?
Honestly, a lot of podcasts. Like, I honestly didn't know that it helps grow your business and build your brand a lot. But I think truly, like I was making a post on this today to go on LinkedIn, is how many people watch you constantly, what you do, whether it's like if you think Instagram and you're doing like Instagram stories or any sort of video, people really get to connect with you. And most of the people that watch you become your customers. And so it's really amazing to see how many people really want to get in that area, especially, I hate to say this, but older generations especially are very open to it, where you would think, especially like 5 years ago, is a very different thing, where it was like, okay, now I have to be more tech savvy, and people are very open to it, which is a really, I mean, I kind of thought that, but it's more, I'm seeing it more and more that people are using podcasts to grow their business. Yeah, and more outsourcing things. Everything is so social anymore.
No, I'm at Big Cedar Lodge, and I was really scared. A gentleman came out to this beautiful patio. It's overlooking the lake here, and he was reading a quiet book. And I was like, I'm so sorry. This is the best place for Wi-Fi. Is it okay if I do a podcast? He's like, oh, which one? Someone you would never think in a million years in Branson asking you about a podcast, but you're so right. And speaking of ways of connecting to people all across the world, Ted, who are you? What do you do? And man, oh man, do I have lots of questions like upcoming releases you have coming out in the next 6 months. But tell us how you got to Kansas City and what you do.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ted Place. I'm the Senior Vice President and Chief Development Officer at Kansas City PBS, 90.9 The Bridge, and flatlandkc.org. 3 brands kind of under one umbrella. I've spent the majority of my career in the not-for-profit world here in Kansas City and found Kansas City PBS, or maybe they found me about 8 years ago, just as we were making a transition, purchasing the Bridge from the University of Central Missouri, bringing it up as the adult album alternative radio station here in Kansas City. Since then, I've also launched flatlandkc.org, which is kind of our digital magazine. And our goal is to reach into every home, onto every phone, with every platform that we can possibly find, with really great content from across the country, from around the world, but most importantly, and our main focus is right here in Kansas City. And the market that we are aiming for is our belief that you can find content anywhere. What you can't find anywhere is really great content about this place that we call home. And how are we going to be an engaged population if we don't understand what's happening at City Hall and what's happening on the Kansas side and the Missouri side and in our educational system? And so we're building a company that has a more than 50-year relationship with Kansas City, but we're expanding it and deepening that relationship to cover more of the community. And so I get the opportunity to work with more than 30,000 households that provide funding for Kansas City PBS, and businesses, foundations here locally. And we try to make as much of it work as we possibly can for as inexpensive as we possibly can.
Yeah. So as a guy, I always call myself the white frat guy from Johnson County. And so everyone just always assumes they know what outlets I go to for information, but I go to public television for all of it, because the artwork that you do, where you really let the content and storytellers tell stories, is absolutely amazing. It's in a wonderful place to learn. And Andy Rieger and I were just talking about Flatland. So I don't know if you're able to take a step back as a fan, but as a fan, and the 3 brands you represent, what are some of maybe one example or 2 examples, you don't have to pick one, of a project each of your brands has worked on that you've been a big fan of personally?
Absolutely. Well, I think to start with Flatland, our community reporter, Vicky Diaz Camacho, is kind of the primary spearhead for what we call Curious KC. And we take recommendations on what we should cover from Kansas City. And some of them are history. Some of them are more social issues. And we cover those. We have an opportunity to invite the person who recommended the story to us to come and do the reporting. And I think that's what public media should be. It is for the people. It is by the people. And so welcoming people into the process is one of the most important things we can do. And I love the way Vicky does it anyway. Very talented journalist. On 90.9 The Bridge, I got to tell you that we do a thing we call the 909 sessions. And we have local musicians from around the country come in and play. We call it a small set in front of some of our best friends. And there is absolutely nothing better, if you're a music fan, than getting to sit 10 feet away from, Melissa Etheridge and hear her talk about her musical journey. And that's happening right here in Midtown Kansas City. Not as much since the pandemic, but it was a pretty regular thing before the pandemic. And we'll get back to it here as soon as we possibly can. It is, you want to talk about telling stories to your friends. You see Melissa Etheridge on TV, or she's coming in concert, and you're like, yeah, I got to meet her. I actually walked her back to the studio. That's a fun thing. On Kansas City PBS, we get the opportunity to watch Nick Haynes' work week in, week out, to bring Week in Review to life. It's a really impressive, the process behind the information news gathering to make something like that go off. But I'd have to say, I'm really impressed with the team that has been put together here. The team of very talented filmmakers, journalists. We have product going all over the country. Recently heard from someone in Detroit that had seen a production we did on Charlie Parker. That's not happening in other media markets, certainly not the 33rd media market in in the country, where we're getting documentaries that are getting shipped all over, getting viewed in markets like LA and New York, and that's a Kansas City production as much as anything. So very proud of the work we're doing across all platforms.
That's amazing. The thing that I think is nuts is if we think about what journalism are we spreading throughout Kansas City, it's oftentimes coming through the walls that you get to walk through every day. Now, what's exciting that's coming up that we need to be watching for? Maybe I'm just the weird person that's part of their target demographic that watches everything you put out, but I'm excited. I know Ken Burns has a story on the Holocaust, which is one of his first non-centralized American documentaries that are coming out that you'll push out. But is there anything that you're doing locally or nationally that you're really excited about that's going to come?
Boy, that's always a loaded question. There's always some really great things in the pipeline. I got to tell you, locally, a show that we're actually calling Flatland. Around here, we call it Flatland the Show versus Flatland the website, hosted by DeRashawn Gilmore. It is absolutely fabulous. It's a monthly show looking at one issue. This last month, and it just debuted last Thursday. It is up on our website now, but really diving in, looking at the future of work. And we're going to be going into housing. We're going to be picking an issue and really diving deep on it. The way it's crafted, the amount of time that's gone into it, the work that DeRashawn is doing just in his first episode. It's not an easy thing to do, to just come on TV and lead a serious discussion. He rocked the first one, and we're looking forward to great things coming from him.
That's super exciting. And also, where do you go to find that news if you want to learn about housing? Because it's not something that you can readily. You're always getting a certain pitch on something, and so it's so wonderful you do what you do. Now, Stephen, one could argue you're the best dressed person, even though I have a bathing suit on and a polo. Tell us what you do and how you got to Kansas City.
Yeah, sure. So, it's Stephen Anthony, the new executive director of business development for the Economic Development Corporation of Kansas City. It is a mouthful to say all of that, but yeah, how I got to Kansas City, I actually am a Kansas City native. So I was born in Missouri and raised in KCK, and so, but I actually have spent the last 14 years, almost 14 years. In DC. So I just recently moved back about 3-4 months ago. So 4 months ago, found my way back to Kansas City, which, for this opportunity to really be able to make an impact and do some things here. It's certainly been a great opportunity for me. So yeah, that's what brought me back this way.
So Stephen, there's a lot that goes into the decision of being 14 years in DC to moving back. So can you kind of dive more into that personally and professionally? And then lastly, it's awesome you're in Kansas City. So happy that you're here, but tell us how all that, that's gotta be a tough decision. What were you doing in DC, and was it hard to leave to come to Kansas City, and then why?
Yeah. No, I get the question all the time. Why? why come back to Kansas City? You were in DC of all places. And for those folks, I actually kind of tell them that, I think there's this misconception that the grass is greener. And, DC is fantastic. Don't get me wrong. DC is a great area. The DMV, there's a tremendous amount of things for everybody out in that area. But Kansas City is special. And I think that folks are starting to see that now. That's something I've always recognized about the city. I think there's definitely a unique aspect being in the Midwest in general, but specifically in Kansas City. And so, I tell people that, I spent a lot of time building up my career out in DC, all up and down the Eastern Seaboard, going from everywhere from being an entrepreneur. I developed my own company. Built out a huge company and investment private equity firm that I built out over a period of some years, and then kind of accidentally fell into the community and economic development space. Had a colleague of mine from undergrad that said, "Hey, Stephen, we're trying to build out economic development for a utility. and it'd be great, to have someone that can help kind of build this out. And there I was, and so that was what I recently was doing in DC, where I led economic development for the largest utility in DC, covering DC, Southern Maryland, Delaware, Southern New Jersey, all of that, and just spent that time building that out. And so when the opportunity presented itself to be a director of business development for Kansas City, Missouri, and ultimately work towards attracting businesses here to Kansas City, retaining businesses here, expanding businesses here, it was something I couldn't pass up. So I sort of say it's like LeBron James bringing his talent back home. So that was what I did.
So one thing is industrial's just been blowing up all throughout Kansas City, but we don't see a lot of those big names when we're checking out the Business Journal, because oftentimes these companies are not headquartered here. They're headquartered elsewhere. So what's something unique that you feel like a lot of people in Kansas City may not realize that's going on, that's going to be big in Kansas City?
Yeah, nah, I can't. You're gonna have me giving away secrets over here, Scott. I can't tell deals that are in the pipeline. But what I will say is that there's been a tremendous uptick. And so, I mean, even over the course of the last few months, it's been absolutely amazing the amount of uptick in interest there's been in Kansas City. And you see it within specialized manufacturing, you see it within biopharma, you see it, in a couple of other industries. But specifically that specialized manufacturing industry, I think is very unique for Kansas City. I think we have the talent that can really, build that out. I also think that we have a lot of land, which is what manufacturers need, right? And so I think that you just have some special aspects of the city that makes it very unique for those types of businesses. But yeah, we're certainly seeing a mass uptick in that type of business that's certainly interested in and wanting to win those headquarters is another story.
Well, one quick question before Ezzy jumps. Oh, Ezzy, you go in. I know I'm going to forget it, but you go.
No, you go, because I don't want you forgetting your question now.
Ezzy's 3 times as smart as 3. Yeah, see, there you go. I'd even say it correctly. Ezzy's way smarter than I am, so I'm allowed to do this because he's not going to forget. So does it blow negotiation if you're negotiating with a company coming here, and it not like you're going to do it on this show, but you were to openly say, we're looking at something, does that hurt your negotiating power to bringing them to Kansas City? And is that kind of difficult to be tight-lipped about things?
Yes. So short answer is yes. These companies are very, very secretive in the sense, and for good reason, right? I mean, at the end of the day, if they don't want to let, competition know what their moves are. And so, ultimately, if information is flowing out and you're divulging, who's moving, where they're moving to, and why, then competition can just swoop right in and say, I'm going to go ahead and take this spot. So, I think that's why they're definitely, certainly tight-lipped about, their next move, which is understandable. So, yeah, that's what you'll see across the board.
What I see Scott fishing for some exclusives. He's trying to break some news.
We like people do break news on here. We go, hey, it's only a couple thousand people view it, so and it could be your parents and coworkers that tune into the show, but there's still an audience, As you go ahead, buddy.
Oh man, no, Stephen. One of the things you mentioned is expanding businesses, which isn't something that people naturally think of the EDC for. They kind of, I think about it in terms of a business attraction. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you mean by expanding businesses?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, the crazy thing is, and you're right. So there's been a perception, over time that the EDC sort of focuses on large scale development, large scale incentive opportunities. I don't even mean to say the expletive called incentive around here because it's a touchy subject. But at the end of the day, it's one of those things that people sort of see. Now, whether warranted or not, my objective has always been since day one is saying, hey, look, large scale opportunities is fantastic. We're going to continue to attract those types of businesses and continue to help them thrive and grow and provide jobs here in Kansas City, Missouri. But at the same time, my biggest piece of it has been, what about small and medium-sized businesses, right? And I think that there's a tremendous opportunity to nurture those types of businesses and help them grow and expand. Because ultimately, if you grow and expand your small and medium-sized businesses, they're going to be the most loyal. They're going to be the ones that in 10 years, they're not going to go anywhere. They're not going to be looking for the next package. They're going to say, hey, look, this town has helped me get to where I am. And so this is my way of giving back. And so there's been a specific emphasis for me and building out my team to really focus on expanding, that network of small and medium businesses. So that's been my take, and certainly kind of work to make sure that they have the resources needed to continue to.
See, Scott, that's an exclusive right there. We're going to call that an exclusive. EDC is focusing now, equal parts, at least from what I heard, on small businesses, mid-sized businesses, and helping them expand. I love it. It brings a tear to my eye. It's I'm tired of teams trying to throw all this money at free agents, even though that now doesn't quite carry over. Versus helping to invest and develop the farm team and all of the guys they drafted. So love it. I love it.
It's not a zero-sum game. I will say it's not a zero-sum game. I think that's when most people have this understanding. It's not a zero-sum game. You don't have to encourage one and then lose the other. You can absolutely have both. And I think we can absolutely kind of maximize on both ends of the spectrum.
See, I don't know now if Ezzy and Madison and Steven got together ahead of time and this was like a planned pitch, because as a Kansas City business nerd, that's awesome.
Yeah,
because
I agree.
we do want to take care of folks on their own. So Rick, you're having to be twice as patient. You want to know why? Because when you're at a computer screen, you can, check the phone, something pops up on email. You're on an island because you have a camera for your presentation.
Now you've got nothing but my
all the
attention.
time. So who are you? How'd you get to where you are? And thank you for being doubly as patient, because you've been having to sit there the whole time.
You only have my attention right now. So that's my name's Rick Burgess. I am a business owner and entrepreneur and consultant by trade. I have a consulting firm here in Kansas City. I am born and bred here in Kansas City. Not a lifetime resident, though. I spent about 7 years in South Florida. I spent some time in Texas. Just spent some time just south of here in Emporia, Kansas. But in 2003, we moved back here, late 2003. So I'm now aging myself, talking about how many years I spent other places, right? Again, Kansas City native, from Overland Park, Shawnee Mission South, go Raiders. I'm really interested in this community and growing and expanding it. And the way that I do that is through small and mid-sized businesses, typically. Closely held, privately owned businesses usually, and that's what Kansas City usually looks like, right? What we do essentially, we have really three aspects of our business. We train a lot of business owners and businesses and professionals to achieve a level of excellence that they wouldn't be able to achieve had we not got involved or they found another resource. So we're doing a lot of training. I own a Sandler training franchise. I'm a partner in that with my business partner, Steve Montague. So we do a lot of training here in our training center in just north of the river in Riverside. So if you've heard of Sandler, you'll probably associate that to some kind of sales or business development training. But we've got a lot of different tricks up our sleeves. We do a lot of strategic planning with companies, a lot of goal setting and strategic execution with companies. So that's going to include your management, your hiring. I like to think of us as a box of resources that companies or individuals can use to build excellence in their companies or build excellence in their careers provided excellence is necessary, right? Sometimes we might have a sales team, for instance, and how we execute things is adequate. And maybe it doesn't have to be excellent, but in areas where it does, I think a conversation with us is always warranted, and I think in a lot of cases we can help.
So Rick, I'm always a big fan of when I'm talking to people and they're like, "Oh, I'm not going to go to this training thing. I'm 40, I'm 50, I've done X," and I'll always argue to them that when your brain is operating at a high octane during business hours, that when you're going through blocking and tackling, you're able to strategically do vision. And obviously, anyone on the entry level side, obviously should be. I'm not going to pitch Sandler, but obviously great organizations like yours. But people do need some hand holding if they don't have a dedicated trainer, because there is that basic blocking and tackling. But outside of the blocking and tackling, what's something that has evolved that in the last year or so, and I don't want to be lazy and say virtual selling, but maybe what's something unique to our audience that you think they should be paying attention to, or making sure they're keeping sharp in their skill sets that's really evolved in these last couple of years?
Yeah, Scott, I think you're right. The fundamentals are always the fundamentals. And an interesting observation about salespeople and selling is we often associate training to that thing we did 22 years ago in our first, new sales class. And maybe we learned a little technique, and maybe we learned a lot about our product or our service. Our clients utilize us in different ways, usually for ongoing, next level type of performance. In other industries and fields, it's a given. I'm sure we're all Chiefs fans, right? To use your comparison, Scott, it'd be kind of funny if Pat Mahomes said, "Hey, listen, I went to practice 3 years ago. I don't have to go anymore," right? That would look strange to us. But we do say that in a sales environment. And sometimes there are people that we end up training. We call them hostages, right? They're here because their company sent them. And it does take that open mindset to be able to learn and grow and develop. And that's why I say it's in areas where excellence is needed. So sales is a great great detail for us, because we can talk about people who sell. We know selling. And some of us, if we're not selling a product, we're selling an idea. So if we use sales as our example, there are a lot of advanced level tools, techniques, pieces that we can be doing. The way we're delivering it is a big change. Sandler historically has always been in person, and there's still reams of data on. There's no substitute for in-person training, so we do a lot of that. We bring in a lot of hybrid environment as well, so we've got training running on Zoom, and I would think the thing that's changed the most is just the level of content that we can bring to bear via online and audio and video and those things. As far as techniques for salespeople or stuff that they may be doing differently, clearly environments like a LinkedIn have changed the game for people, but some of the things that we're doing to get people's attention has really changed, because we are exposed to so many messages. So I tell anybody in sales, if you're not utilizing some level of video outreach, you're probably missing the game. I use a tool called Vidyard. If you're not using some augmenting tools like Crystal, for instance, to find out about these people that you're connecting with virtually, and Crystal will tell you a lot of their own proclivities and tendencies. Most of us has probably taken a DISC profile before, so it'll even be predictive about the DISC profile of that individual that you'd like to learn something about. So I think that those pieces are tremendous. There's some great research pieces in Zoom info that we spend a lot of time with our clients on. But you're right. The fundamentals themselves haven't changed much, but I think football's our great example. The fundamentals of football haven't really changed a lot since the forward pass. However, if you take a team from 1952 and compare them to Andy Reid's Super Bowl champion Chiefs, they're going to look a lot different.
You just land big game hunting. So, for you, what have you taken away from any sales consulting or leadership that you've gone through? You've obviously been a part of many incubators, been a part of a lot of high level strategic thinking groups. For you, what do you learn when you're in those groups?
It was interesting. I was just about to tag on a question to that last comment there. But you know what? I'll do this. I'll give my insight, which probably isn't as good as his insight, but I'll still give it. And then I'm gonna tag team him in to give a one of his secrets, to share one of his secrets for delivering the sale. All right. So for me, I think that it's sometimes it's easy to get so focused on the product that you have to offer that you stop focusing on what problem you're solving for the client and how you're solving a problem that they can't live without, making their life easier, making their time more effectively spent, things like that, and then framing it that way versus just showcasing and show and telling whatever you have to offer. So I'm tagging you in, brother.
The tag. So wait, I gotta go over.
Oh
here.
yeah. Okay. Is that how they did it?
No, I heard a lot of what you said there. You're right. We spend a lot of time when we think of selling something on our products, our stuff, our features, our benefits. And sometimes we do that at the expense of our clients or our prospects, finding out truly, do they have a problem that they're committed to fixing? If they don't, it isn't really going to matter whether I have a great product or not, right? You have to look no further than you go to the grocery store and you see in the pharmacy and you see like pain relievers, right? The Advil might be better than the Tylenol or better than the Bayer, but if I don't have a pain remedy problem, like if I'm getting along with my Bayer and it's fixing my headache, it really isn't going to matter to me much if Advil is more effective. It's fixing my problem. And so I think salespeople, or in business owners for sure, because they get really passionate about their products, is they lose sight of that interrogation. They lose sight of, what is really the problem here, and is it a problem that's big enough to fix, and is it big enough to fix right now for you? And we spend sometimes less time talking about that and more time talking about our features and benefits. I don't know if that's what you were thinking too.
Oh man, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. And one of the things that I think people might have missed that I want to highlight, because I did not miss it.
Toby's Selling 101, ask questions and listen. Find a pain or problem. Go ahead, Ezzy.
Oh yeah. One of the things that you mentioned is a problem that they are committed to fixing.
You got it.
You can sell all the diet frozen food meals you want. They can be as good as as grandma can make them. But if someone's not committed to really doing what it takes to lose that weight, it's not going to matter.
You nailed it. I mean, if you look at my business, I think everyone at the surface would think, hey, it's a pretty good idea for me to get more effective as a leader, as an owner, as a communicator, as a salesperson. I think there are a lot of people that think generally that's a good idea. Now, there's a big difference between that to I'm really committed to changing the dynamics of my business over time. There's a difference between that. And if you're not aligning on that business, or on that difference, then you're not going to align on your product or your service for being a partner or a fix for that.
Yeah, my ADD keeps having me focused. When you give that Patrick Mahomes reference, I was thinking of Stephen, Ted, and I came in. If you could teach us how to throw sidearm, but I don't know if that's part of Sandler. Now we're going to go to Madison, and we're going to ask everyone to tell us a recent win that they've had in business. So Madison, tell us something good going in your world that you've had a win on.
I think overall a win has been being with Lillian James. Like, just overall, just being so new, I can't speak to magnitudes of things because I know so much greatness is coming. But overall, like we had 7 new clients. I want to say 7, right? Am I right, Ezzy? Come on last month.
Whoa. We don't talk numbers now. Hold on. No, I'm joking.
if not more. So we're actively, like, we have so many new people coming on with Lillian James, and that's so exciting. And me to be here is absolutely amazing too, because there's just so much more we can do for business owners and people in general. And I get to be a part of it. And that's probably my biggest one, is being a part of this amazing company and just the growth that's happening.
Yeah, I think maybe that's why. Hopefully, yeah.
Thank you.
Well done.
Aaron's
clap for Madison.
That's right. Hopefully, Aaron's resting after all the work you guys have been doing, because it's always important. I feel to take a break, and the Aaron and I's love language is work ethic. And so, to your point,
definitely hers
about your, it's one of those things you just build, knowing that it's going to come. And so, speaking of building, Ted, you've been doing building blocks for almost close to a decade. But more recently, what's been a big win for you, or something you're excited about?
I think the biggest thing for us is we're celebrating 10 Mid-America Emmy nominations. And in a year where there's been a pandemic, the period of time.
Walk down some of the nominations for each, so we can make sure we're taking notes on what to tune into or look up. Hopefully I'm not putting you on the spot.
No, yeah, the little so Bird, Not Out of Nowhere was a documentary. We got 3 for a local performing arts program that we ramped up during the pandemic in response to all the arts organizations that were unable to perform. We wanted to be able to bring the arts to our audiences. Casey Performs is the name of that program. We received several for things that appeared on Flatland and on TV, short stories, food, civic affairs, and this is where I kind of run out of all of the titles. But I mean, we're covering arts, civic affairs, mental health, business, all of these things. And this is a small team. We're a 55-person company that does radio, digital journalism, television, plus all the business side of that. So for us to answer the bell like that, from the person that answers the door and the door and the phone in the lobby, to the people that are producing, all the way up to our CEO, to have that kind of commitment to bring that product to the market. 10 Emmy nominations for us is a pretty darn good year in the middle of a pandemic. So we're very proud of it.
So for something that you're excited about coming in the future, you talked about a few things, but is there something that you're hoping is going to be a big win coming up?
Absolutely. Well, I think for us, it's all about the product that's going to hit the market, right? We've got a several documentaries, not to give away any secrets just yet, that are going to be coming out here in the first half of 2022 that we're really excited about. Also, I would say building the stable of talent. We have a focus here on amplifying diverse voices and looking for those out in the community and bringing them to us and making sure that they understand that this is a place where you can come to tell the stories about your community is a big priority for us. It's something that has maybe not traditionally been the way that a public media organization has worked. It's something that we are putting a lot of emphasis on. So as far as looking forward, building a place, expanding on our footprint to include a very diverse group of makers is an exciting initiative for us.
So go ahead, Desi.
Oh, I'm excited. Ted, do you have any topics for us on those coming up?
I have to be a little careful because they're in development. I would say you can always count on us to focus on the arts and telling some behind the scenes stories of arts organization, civic affairs. We've got a couple of big issues that I don't want to go too far into, but the housing crisis, both from renters, from landlords, where are people going is going to be a topic on our horizon. The conversations about guns are going to be another one for us that's big. And so getting all that talent, not trying to be secretive at all, just careful is the word.
Well, hey, we can't give away if we say too much, it hurts the artist or the company. So no, we got to be confidential.
Hey, Drinks with Leaders is about exclusives. It's about exclusives, chat. I'm joking. We're satisfied.
one selfish question I have is there's a lot. I mean, it's a for-profit and a non-for-profit, and so it's a really unique business model. Are you ever intrigued by who your donors are? Because I feel like if there was a donor base that you tried to put into a box, you couldn't put your donors in a box because they probably range all over the place. So for you, especially in your near decade at the organization, does it always shock you on who ends up being big supporters and then who ends up not being big supporters?
Yeah, I think it's a passion for information, a passion for maybe a particular segment of our community that brings people to us in the first place. And not that everybody doesn't have that, but I think there are people that it speaks to differently. Whether it was a time in their life or a particular subject that reach out and grab them. I think it's a very personal relationship. And you're right, they come from all over. I think the one unifying principle is that they like good stuff. Whether it's music, whether it's documentary, just the building of information, doing business a different way. I think that is the thread through all of our supporters and all of our audiences. They're looking for good stuff.
So, Stephen, I'm going to ask you two questions. You got to do the big recent win, but also I want to know something that you were really happy to come back to from a food perspective. Don't feel like you got to say barbecue. But what's something, maybe if you're Rick, you would say Taco Villa as a Shawnee Mission South guy. But for you, Stephen, what's a recent win? And then coming back from Washington, D.C., Kansas City, what was something that you really missed from a food perspective?
Yeah. So, I would honestly say from a recent win perspective, I mean, I mentioned before, we have there's a ton of stuff in the pipeline. I mean, there's a lot of activity going on in the pipeline. And so for me, I think the biggest win, honestly, is developing the talent that we have. I came in the door and needed to sort of build out our business development department, bring in some additional business development officers. And they didn't really get the opportunity to sort of do what they really do best because of the pandemic last year. So it was really needing to sort of help them get out there, help them really sort of build those relationships that's needed to really sort of win business for us. And so, I think the activity that we've had over the last few months is really indicative of being able to really sort of put a lot more effort into the talent pipeline that we have, into our folks. And so, I take the attention off of me and really give it to, my team and really building them out. So I think that's the biggest win, honestly. And in terms of what I look forward to, I mean, it may be cliche, but it is the barbecue, and I hate to really.
Well, what restaurants?
So, Jack Stack is my favorite, and then I'll follow up with Gates as a close number two. But yeah, I miss Kansas City barbecue. You don't find anything like it anywhere else, and definitely not in DC.
Are you looking to hire people right now for your organization?
I do have an open for a business development officer, so definitely want to put that out there.
Shout that to the lungs. I always tell people, if you can go work for a bank like a Bank of Blue Valley, or you can work for the Economic Development Council, you should leap, jump, and who cares what you get paid, because the access and the opportunity that you're giving someone is unparalleled. It's like working at the Business Journal, who's really kind to our show, and we love the Business Journal, but there's so many amazing opportunities. So if anyone is in the audience that is hearing this, and you know of someone that is a go-getter that will get after it, please connect them to Stephen. It'd be an insanely amazing opportunity. It'd be crazy to pass it up. Now, Rick, I think you may know some people based upon what you do for a living. So tell us about a recent win, success that you've had. And then also one side question is, when you were buying the franchise, did you consider partnering with a bank from the capital aspect?
I'm still considering that for some additional needs that we're having. So, Bank of Blue Valley, sure, let's have a conversation. Yeah, those are always concerns. So absolutely. As far as wins, that's the blessing of this business that I'm in is my wins are my clients' wins. And so whether it's, the recent client I had that, they doubled their revenue. They went from $3 to $6 million in less than 2 years, which is running pretty fast for them considering, it's about a 30-year-old company. So they're not that's not an exponential growth type of company you think about, right? When a 30-year-old company does that. And then they got themselves on the Inc. 5000 for the first time and the Ingram's growth list for the first time since their early inception. So, whether it's a client succeeding like that, a company or a business or an individual that we train who just says, you know what, Rick, I set an appointment with a prospect and I got to tell you, had we not met, there's no way I would have set that appointment. Right. And that really has less to do with me, more with them. And it's just me helping them channel it. So I get to see a lot of those successes a lot, which is great.
Rick, you just, I think we've done like 80, 90 shows. Aaron will correct me. Maybe it's over 200 shows. I have no idea at this point, but a great answer. Our wins are our clients' wins. And I think that is so true and so wonderful. And that's why you're so successful at what you do. Now, we do an icebreaker towards the end of the show. And since we have a little bit of time, I finally don't have to rush. What was your favorite high school lunch? Which Aaron hates, but I can say it as much as I want because she's not here. But Ezzy, we're going to start with you. I was listening to someone that does a lot of work for public television, Ken Burns, and he mentioned, the dinner table. So you don't need to just pick one, but if you want to pick one or two, if you could sit at dinner with anyone, dead or alive, who would it be? And I know Ken Burns was talking a lot about Abraham Lincoln and sitting down with him as a Ohio representative in his early 20s. So who, dead or alive, would you like to be at your dinner table? You can go one or two people and let us know why.
Yeah, I'm gonna do two people, but I'm a yes and you. So I see your question, your challenge for everyone, and I raise it to a sentence or two sentences of advice from things that you've learned. So, what's something impactful that you've learned throughout your career over the years in your line of work that can help people out, add some value to their mindset. So I'm going to do both. I'll say first and foremost, Tony Robbins, just because in my eyes, he and his teams are the top, psychologists, performance coaches, all of the above. And I see most of the things that hold people back have nothing to do with their talents or their intelligence. It's all those things around them and their management of everything else going on in their head. So that would be mine. And I'd say for my word of wisdom, I've learned that the right message at the wrong time is the wrong message.
Wow, that is deep and over my head, but that's why I went to college for 7 years.
Can we do another one of those high five deals? Like right there, yeah.
Madison,
great answer.
Who do you go to dinner with, dead or alive? And what's a piece of advice that you have? Because Sam thinks it's a great question.
Okay, so mine would probably be, if you asked me 5 years ago, it would be different. If you asked me maybe even 2 years ago, it'd be different. But it'd probably be Andy Frisella, the guy who developed 75 Hard, just because I think when he's a great business partner, he owns First Form. He also is an incredible speaker. He does kind of cuss a lot, just FYI. If you guys go listen to his podcast, don't blame me. He just speaks to me in a different sort of way, just like a younger generation. I think he's full of knowledge, and I look forward to listening to his podcast. So I think if I could just pick his brain for a little bit, that would be awesome. If I could give advice, my piece of advice would be kind of like a two-set thing. Be bold. Don't be afraid of anything. Be who you are completely. Also, always try and fill from a full cup, whatever that means. Don't try and pour from an empty one. Always be trying to fill yourself up with knowledge. You can always be taught and learned from anybody.
Perfect timing. 2 minutes for the last three guests. Ted, dinner table and piece of advice.
I'm going to go old school. I'm going to go Dwight Eisenhower. And I think because he was the great facilitator, the great connector, the right place, the right person at the right time for what had to be done. And I think that that's my piece of advice as well, is look for the place where you can bring value and you can increase and raise others up. And that will be more than enough. That will be a great day's work.
Have you listened to Malcolm Gladwell, the Bomber Squad? Did I say that right? There you go. Same vein. Bomber Mafia. Thank you. All right, Stephen. Who's at that dinner table? You can pick multiple guests. And what's the advice?
Man, that's a good one, man. So I would say Reginald F. Lewis is who I'd be at the dinner table with. First black man to actually lead $1 billion company. And so I think that's what you can learn from that tenacity and the ability to continue to persevere despite obstacles, and despite what people say, despite what the world may assume is your place in it. You continue to push through it. And so honestly, taking that is sort of indicative of my own life. I came from an area where I wasn't supposed to be where I'm at today. Right. So at the end of the day, it's about perseverance. It's about being able to be disruptive, to set yourself apart, to do something special. And I think everyone has that ability to be able to do it. So that's my take.
Can you go back? I feel like a horrible human being that I love history, but when Ezzy started, he was like, yeah, and I don't know who you're talking about. Give the audience more knowledge. And obviously I have homework to do to study tonight. Tell us about is it Reginald?
Reginald Lewis.
So what business did he do and how did he grow it?
So he actually was an attorney by trade. Was an attorney by trade and actually built out one of the largest private equity companies of his time in the 80s. So it was a boom time in the 80s, with private equity and buyouts and so forth. But he set a mark that wasn't applicable to African American men at the time, and so he definitely set himself apart. It's actually a book that you should probably get a chance to pick up, and it's actually called "Why Should White Guys Have All the Fun?" So
I love it.
Get a chance to check that out. But it's a great read. Definitely kind of tells you a little bit about him and how he persevered.
Man, it's a great advice and something we all need to be looking into. And another thing of why public television is so important, because there's certain stories that are told that you traditionally aren't getting a chance to hear and learn. And I always get mad at my history teachers and my education system for not learning more about important things in history, such as that. All right, Rick, who's at your dinner table? I'm sure you're serving barbecue, but what advice?
In my head today, but I'm gonna have to go with Arthur Bryant and Ollie Gates so that they can help me cook. Right?
Love it.
Casey Homer answer, I know, but y'all put that thought in my head.
What piece of advice do you have? And then not only that, but like, what if I'm a new what piece of advice do you have in general? And then secondly, what piece of advice do you have for a new salesperson?
Okay. Piece of advice that I have in general is you. Okay. So I mean the collective you, whether you're a business owner or a salesperson or a customer service rep, whatever, you will only perform in your role at a level that you view yourself conceptually over time. So no more, no less, right? So we were talking about this earlier, the what's between your ears and your mindset's a heck of a lot more important than whatever, techniques or tactics you're putting out in the world. Right. And so it's all about that self-concept and it's all about your self-worth. So spend a lot of time on that. Second part of the question was again, new salesperson.
New salesperson.
Yeah. Talk to people. That's it.
I like it.
Talk to people.
The Randy Powell, who's been a guest on the show, he's the CEO of United Rotary Brush and has been doing a lot of inspirational things in Kansas City. I'm going to get it wrong, but I was talking with Nate Orr and Katie Fitzgerald and Randy, and we were talking about, if you are doing the same thing you're doing, you can't expect to get to the next level, and putting yourself in uncomfortable situations. So if you're in a room that you feel comfortable in, you better get out of it and get into another room that you do feel uncomfortable in. And with that being said, in our last 20 seconds, I really want to thank Bank of Blue Valley. I want to thank Ezzy, as always, for being such a good friend and always helping us host on the show. And to you, all of our panelists, I think in a lot of ways, we're all getting a chance to share and tell stories that other people aren't necessarily sharing, which makes this show so special, that we bring different people together to all bring us on one voice for Kansas City. So thank you to Bank of Blue Valley. We're going to do what we do at the end of every Zoom call. We wave at the camera and we say bye.
I hope everyone connects.